Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ryan Souza. I'm one of the senior investment managers here at Sharewise. Now, we're here this morning with Jeneta Owens. Now, Jeneta is the Managing Director of Godolphin Resources. She's been kind enough this morning to lend us her time and expertise regarding Godolphin. So she's going to start us off with a presentation updating us on their key projects and how they are tracking before we open the floor up to a Q&A as always. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like me to ask Netta anything today, please submit a question through the Q&A function on Zoom, and I will ask her to after the presentation. Netta, thank you for your time this morning. The floor's all yours.
Great, thank you, Ryan. I will just share my screen now. I've got a presentation to show you all. Just making sure that everyone can see that okay?
Yep.
Excellent. Okay, so I'm just going to provide a bit of an overview of Godolphin Resources, and then I'll work through our two key projects that we're working on at the moment. So that's our compliance statement, and that is available on the website. We won't read that because there's too much detail. Basically, this is our corporate snapshot at the moment. So this shows the number of shares on issue and the share price when I put this together. But I would like to note that we do have multi-commodity exposure. So we are exposed to gold, copper, rare earths, plus silver, zinc, and a bit of lead as well. We are focused on metals and minerals that will enhance the energy transition into the future, and we have a team, a very experienced team of board and management who have worked in this space. We have experience across operations as well as taking projects from exploration through to mining. Now, another point of note here is our major shareholders. We did just complete our AGM yesterday, which ratified our tranche 2 of our recent placement, which will see American Rare Earths as our cornerstone go up to around 19%. So that really is a very important relationship for us. Now, American Rare Earths have a very large project over in the US, and they have a lot of US connections, and we are working very closely with those guys with our rare earth project here in New South Wales. And in line with that, we've actually taken Chris Gibbs as a director of Godolphin, and we're really looking forward to that ongoing relationship. So investment highlights. As I mentioned, we are a multi-commodity explorer. We don't just focus on one commodity, and we do explore across the entire project portfolio. So although we do have priority projects that we talk about in this forum and other similar forums, we are working in the background on all of our other projects across New South Wales. We have 4 JORC compliant resources, again, which is quite unique for a junior exploration company. We have copper and gold projects in the highly metal endowed Lachlan Fold Belt. So this is an area where majors play. We're talking about Newmont, who have the Cadia mine. We've got Evolution there with Cow and North Parks, as well as Alkane with their Tamingli gold mine. We have both rare earth and copper gold projects in the Lachlan Fold Belt. I mentioned our experienced team, but we also have an experienced team on the ground. So we have people with local area knowledge, and our exploration manager has a lot of experience working in this space in New South Wales. So looking at our project portfolio, we have sort of coloured this up to help identify the different project areas. So we have our rare earth project suite in green, our copper and gold suite in orange. Our joint venture with Orange Minerals there near Forbes in New South Wales is in pink. Now, we do separate out Gundagai is a separate project area. We have Lewis Ponds, which is a VMS deposit area just north of Orange, which we separate out as well. And we've got the remaining copper and gold suite there, which, is nearly 100 kilometres in strike length, covering across the important Lachlan Fold Belt and that Lachlan Transverse Zone, which is, a focus for metals in this area. Now, looking at Lewis Ponds. So Lewis Ponds was a historic mine, and it was mined for lead and silver back in the 1800s. So Godolphin have had this project for a little while, since we floated in 2019, and we updated the resource in 2021, and it's now sitting at 6.2 million tonnes at 2 grams per tonne gold, plus it's got the silver, lead, zinc and the copper. Now that's a really significant milestone, because previously this mine has been thought of or looked at as purely a lead zinc play, but no one had really focused on the precious metals. And 2 grams per tonne gold is actually quite a really, a nice gold number. Now, to put that into perspective for you, the Temingli gold mine, so Alkane's project, when they commenced, they only had 9 million tonnes at 1.8 grams per tonne gold, and that's what they started mining on. So this project is really important to us, and the mineralisation is open in many directions. So you can see this long section here of the spices lode. The pink represents high grades, and the areas that are open and where pink just stops through a lack of drilling. So there's big holes within the resource where there's no drilling. We've never found the bottom of this, and we haven't found the extent. So it's open in multiple directions and within the resource. So we have planned some drilling, and which just last week we put out an announcement that we have a drill rig on site, and we're currently on our second hole of that program. And what we're doing there is trying to drill out some of the upper part of the resource to provide more confidence. So that is to take it from that inferred to indicated category. We also want fresh samples for metallurgy. So we want to look at the products that we can make from, the concentrates. Again, historic work is focused on lead and zinc, and we know that we can get those products out quite easily. But what we want to do is change or investigate the possibility of making different concentrates that can directly sell to operating smelters. So that's talking about, a copper and gold concentrate, for example, and maybe a lead and silver concentrate. So those things are highly are able to be sold quite readily into operating smelters currently around the world. Now, I did mention that we've got 6.2 million tonnes, and that is a good starting point, but do we have the potential to increase the resource size? So I did mention that particular lode, the spices lode, has gaps within it, and we haven't sort of found the ends of it or the base of it. But outside of that, you can see that we've got this IP anomalies. So the main Lewis Ponds that lode that sits within the MRE, within the resource calculation, is in a white box there. And you can see that it has bright orange IP anomalies. So to the north, we have an IP anomaly that's stopped only because the survey stopped at that location, same signature. And to the south, we've got similar signatures again that haven't been drill tested. So there's a lot of highly prospective ground that we can test that's likely to host a similar kind of mineralisation than what we find at Lewis Ponds. And again, another example of how we might be able to increase the resource. So Lewis Ponds itself, you can see the main shaft there on the image, and you can see that it's associated with what we call negative VTEM anomalies. So that's an aerial EM survey, and gold in soils. And we've done a soil program to the north and identified the similar structures. So we've got those negative VTEM anomalies associated with gold in soil anomalies. So we're quite confident that we can, in fact, increase this resource size with additional drilling. So moving on to Narraburra. So Narraburra is down located near Temora in the central west. This is a well-known mining district. Temora is an old gold mining town. That was how it was founded. And currently the project area is used for farming sheep and wheat and things like that. So the project area is 12 kilometres north of Temora. We started our ownership in this project back in 2022 with a joint venture, and earlier this year we announced that we've taken 100% ownership of that project. So we now own it outright. We have done one campaign of drilling only, and that's given us our maiden resource of the 94.9 million tonnes at the 739 ppm TREO, so that's total rare earth oxide. And half of that resource is now also indicated. So that's important, which means that we can now sort of focus on mining studies and pushing the project into those stages. That resource announcement, really was quite significant because it increased the size of the resource from an old 2004 resource. It increased that confidence in the resource, and also there was that huge uplift in the TREO grade. Now, why are we looking at rare earths when we've been traditionally a copper and gold explorer? And it's really about the demand for the future critical minerals that the world is going to need to supply and support the energy transition. We're going to be moving to electrification, and all of those things require permanent magnets. Permanent magnets make electric motors work and make them more efficient. And we're moving that way, not just in vehicles, but in wind turbines, it's medical equipment, and it's not just electric vehicles. So there's a bit of misconception out there that if we don't have electric vehicles, we don't need permanent magnets. But the statistics are that we're going to need a lot more. Just internal combustion engine vehicles use permanent magnets as well. You think about your electric windows, your electric seats, all of those sorts of things all use permanent magnets. If we go to plug-in hybrids, the demand for permanent magnets, increases to 2 to 3 times. And then the full electric is about 3 to 4 times. So, just increased population is going to need more of those things the whole way through. So, looking at these graphs, it's really just showing you the demand forecast from 2022 to 2032. And you really can see when we're talking about rare earths, it is all in the magnets. That's where the supply demand is going to come from. Narraburra Rare Earth, the magnet proportion of our TREOs, the total rare earth oxide, is 24%. And of that 24%, we also have 24% of the terbium and dysprosium. So they're the really high value magnet minerals. The NdPr, are relatively cheap. If we move back to this slide, you can see the NdPr price there. It's pretty much $100 a kilo. But if you look at the terbium and dysprosium, we're talking about $440 or $1,700 a kilo, and the prices are actually slightly more than that since I've put in this slide. Pricing is difficult because China does dominate the market, and they set the pricing at the moment, and the Western world is trying to keep up with that and manage through their pricing fluctuations. So really important to note, though, is that the Narraburra magnet rare earth matrix, or the makeup, is quite high in the terbium and dysprosium, and that will become important in a few slides' time. So we have done a maiden resource of drilling, did one campaign of drilling to put out our maiden resource. We haven't drilled any more in the project yet. And the reason for that is that we really wanted to identify that the type of mineralization we have can be economic, and it can be extracted, because just because you have a resource that's got tons and grade doesn't mean that it actually can be an economic deposit. It doesn't mean that it can actually be recovered. So we started working with ANSTO. We did our phase 1 metallurgy test work, and we had amazing results there. You can see up to 94% on individual minerals, but overall 92% recovery of the magnet minerals. And again, putting that into perspective, the average market compared, like our peers, when we did this work, they were getting between 40 and 60%. So, it's massive. We went on to phase 2, where we actually took composite samples and did the same thing. So that's more indicative of mining. And again, we got amazing results, so between 80 and 95% extraction of those magnet minerals. We did some size fraction work to determining whether the ore sits within the coarse particles or the really fine particles. And this is really about whether we can reduce the mass at the front end before we go into the leach circuit. And it turns out that potentially we can, because the fine fraction is actually where most of the rare earths are hosted. And we know that those, which is the clay minerals, and we know that they are moderately liberated. So that's all really positive things for the economics of this project. Just recently, we made our first MREC. So this is actually the saleable product. We can sell this. People buy MREC. So it's like selling a concentrate. And amazingly, this actual product is quite clean. So it doesn't have a lot of impurities. So that's aluminium and iron, and we have high value magnet minerals that are depositing into that MREC. So again, you know, when we're talking about the economics of the project, the fact that we can have high levels of terbium and dysprosium is actually really positive. Having this MREC also means that we can start having discussions with people that buy MREC. So, and we're doing that with companies that are outside of China. So in the US, Japan, and Europe, we've started discussions with different groups that buy MREC, and we'll continue those discussions as we move through the development process or progress at Narraburra. Now, I mentioned about the terbium and dysprosium. This chart really is about the indicative basket price of that MREC. So if you look at the column US value within 1 kilo of TREO, so that is the value of our product for 1 kilo. And you can see that the TREO value is $35 for our project, for the Narraburra project, and some other projects that have put out announcements with MREC values that we've used the same calculations for, so meteoric and red metals. So comparatively, you can see that having those high levels of terbium and dysprosium in our MREC changes that economic point of view. So our product is just more valuable because of those levels. And I'll point to the terbium and dysprosium line, which is 2 above where the red circles are. You can see across that line with the other projects that ours is really the outstanding price value there. So that's really important because it's going to mean that, you know, our product is more valuable than some of the other projects around. Now, again, we have, I've said we've only done 1 campaign of drilling. We do know that we will need to make this resource bigger, and the reason why we haven't focused on that so far, outside of that, we wanted to know that the project can be economically extracted, we have a saleable product, is that we really have been very confident that that we can actually expand the project. We have a tenement area that covers 50 kilometres north-south and about 30 kilometres east-west. So we have a lot of land in that area. Pointing to the bottom image, you will see that, I'm not sure that you can see my cursor, but this image here is actually where the Narraburra deposit currently sits. And the New South Wales Geological Survey flew EM survey lines across areas of New South Wales, which included this area, and those lines have been spaced 2.5 kilometres across our project area. And we can see that this highlights a clay basin associated with the A-type granites that we need, and that clay basin is 25 kilometres long by 3.5 kilometres wide. That is our high priority zone, and it's the same regolith environment and geological setting as what the Narraburra project is. And again, that is open in all directions. Looking at that top image is where one of those lines actually went over the top of the Narraburra project. And you can see our mineralisation sits in that transition zone between the hot red colour and the dark blue basement. And that continues for another 1.5 kilometres to the west. So we're not, at all concerned that we can expand this project. It's just, we just need to go and do the drilling to make that happen. So just the investment summary here, large foothold in the Lachlan Fold Belt that's very highly metal endowed. We have 4 JORC compliant MRE resources across that project area, including rare earths, copper, gold, and gold itself. We have JORC compliant resources at Narraburra, and which is an advanced project, rare earth project, and we've got the the gold silver project at Lewis Ponds. And we've recently raised cash and are well placed to complete the round of drilling that we're doing at Lewis Ponds, and the work that we've got planned for Narraburra into the foreseeable future. And thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you very much for the presentation. Really appreciate that one and the thorough update. We'll open the floor up now to Q&A. Obviously, I've got a couple just to kick us off with. Now, first of all, obviously it feels like you guys have two main priority projects at the moment, those being the Narraburra Rare Earth and then the Lewis Pond Gold. Now, when it comes to which of those two is more of a current priority and which of those two you guys are dedicating more time and funding to, which one is it?
Lewis Ponds. So currently we are spending our money at Lewis Ponds on the gold project. So that includes drilling and metallurgy. With the Narraburra Rare Earth Project, we have, I guess we've already paid for the work that's happening at the moment, which is the work on the MREX. And it's really the other costs that are associated with my time and making those important phone calls to buyers of MREC.
Okay, brilliant. Now, when it comes to discussing buyers of MREC, what's your strategy for securing long-term profitable offtake agreements? At the end of the day, are you in conversations now? Are the projects in two preliminary stages? Are you looking to potentially sell the projects, or what's really the scope?
Yeah, so we are starting to have conversations with people that buy MREC, but not only people that buy MREC, that we're also having conversations, that we've opened up a little bit wider as to trying to maybe potentially partner with other organisations that will bring that next stage of processing. Yeah. So moving on from MREC, but making oxide metals and bringing that into Australia. So we're in the very early stages of all of those discussions. We have only had our MREC product specification for a couple of weeks, and that's one data point. We're actually making another, so we've got a couple of data points there. So we are in the early stages, but we're not looking to set any long-term offset arrangements currently, mainly because we don't want to lock ourselves into something that may not be the best outcome in the long term, and that's around where rare earth pricing is currently. So it's at one of the lowest points that it has been for a long time, in the last 5 years especially. And if we were to do that now, that actually might be detrimental to the project. So we're looking at developing relationships, but not locking ourselves in.
Of course. Okay. Now, just to talk about Godolphin on a broader scale, how do you plan to differentiate GRL from other companies in the sector? Obviously, it's a heavy saturated marketplace. And what unique value proposition does Godolphin present to investors currently?
Well, I think it's really around our optionality. We've got projects across multiple suites, so multiple commodities. So when we're talking copper, gold, and rare earths, and when particular, I guess, markets are strong, we can actually turn on those different projects, which is probably what you're seeing now with gold, running quite strong at the moment. We've been able to go, okay, well, now it's time to pull the gold lever and work on Lewis Ponds, because that's what's going to provide the best value for our shareholders.
Yeah. Okay, brilliant. Well, thank you for that one. Now, a couple more from me. What's your long-term vision for Godolphin? Realise at the end of the day, how do you plan to position the company in the evolving rare earth and critical minerals market? And obviously, on the basis that gold continues to run, how do you expect to manage these two projects simultaneously?
Yeah, look, Godolphin can expand up and reduce down as needed. Ultimately, our goal as a company is to provide value for shareholders, and we are very conscious of what that may mean. If that means taking a project into production, we have the skills and expertise within our group to do that. If it means finding a joint venture party or a project level investment or divestment, we are open to all of those opportunities. So we look at that very carefully on a regular basis of our project suite and how we can best get value for our shareholders. So I try to describe Godolphin as being a multi-commodity explorer. That's what we are. We are explorers, but we also have the capacity to take us into development if that's what we need to do and if that's what's best value proposition for our shareholders.
Brilliant. Thank you for that one. Now, just one last one for me here. Now, next 12 to 18 months, obviously going to be pretty big for the market. What are your key priorities and how do you plan to achieve your resources to achieve these goals?
Yeah, so you're right. It's going to be a big time for markets, and we are poised for that. That's why we're working on the gold project and moving that forward. We should be able to get some, really good gold numbers from our drilling, increase our knowledge on the metallurgy, and start talking to people about where we might be able to sell those concentrates. So that's what's really driving us at the moment.
Okay, brilliant. And on the horizon for project developments over the next 12 to 18 months, do you have anything that you can discuss with the market today?
Sorry, I didn't get the first part of that.
So over the next 12 to 18 months, when it comes to the projects developing, what are the near-term goals?
Yeah, ultimately, with the gold project, we are looking at, drill results. So we will be doing drilling, we'll be putting out the assay results for that, we'll be updating the geological model, we'll be putting out an updated MRE, and we'll be doing a whole bunch of metallurgy on that project as well. So that's about increasing the resource size, looking at whether we can increase the grade and optimizing the concentrate. So that's really important work that will happen over the next 12 to 18 months.
All right, brilliant. Well, Jeneta, that about wraps everything up for us today. Is there anything you'd like to leave us with before we say goodbye?
No, just keep supporting us and watch what we're doing, because it's really going to be an exciting time over the next few months of Godolphin.
Well, brilliant. I look forward to it. Thank you very much for your time and expertise this morning, Jeneta. Really appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. Enjoy the rest of your day. Cheers.
Thank you.